Hi, my name is Michael Idadaji, and today we have another masterclass um, Bible study. This one is Jesus is not the King of the Jews. Jesus is the King of Israel. Now, to a lot of people, they don't understand the difference, so we're going to make it real clear today, and then we're going to go look for it and who says what in the Bible of King of Israel and King of the Jews. So, first, in my previous video, we had spoken about Judah had a wife. This is fornication. And she was a Canaanite, and she had 3 sons. Okay, first son God killed. The second, and this was supposed to be Tamar's. Judah took a wife, Tamar, for his sons. So the first son died. God didn't like him. The second son didn't want to bring seed up to his brother's name. This is really important because remember, Judah fornicated. All the sexual deviation and stuff comes from here. He did not want to marry Tamar and bring seed to his brother's name, so God killed him too. Third son, Judah did not give Tamar to her. And why Tamar? Because he was younger, and then when he got old, when Judah's wife died, and it was made known that Tamar, wasn't going to get him because he got older. What she did is she dressed it up like a harlot because that's what Judah was looking for. That's what his eyes were for a sexual problem, harlot. And then the Tamar had 2 sons. Okay, 2 sons from Tamar. But these were hidden from Judah for a while. So let's just keep that there. Judah also sold Joseph for silver. The Old Testament parallels the New Testament. So Judah of the Old Testament is like Judas, who sold Jesus for what? 30 pieces of silver. Okay? It's undeniable that parallel was made because God makes these analogous understandings everywhere in the Bible. So, Judah is Israel. Israel, let's say the nation, and then Israel is also 12 brothers, okay, or the sons of Israel. Israel is also a land. Israel is also a kingdom. Now, Judah is one of the sons of Israel. After Solomon had died, the kingdom split to Israel and Judah. So amongst themselves, some of the tribes split with Judah and some with Israel. So this is a split now. Now, modern day people think that when you hear the word Jews, that's a synonymous for Israel. That would mean that Israel's blessing that was passed down, to Israel, that he gave that blessing to Judah for the nations, and that's not the case. It went to Joseph's sons. So Joseph's sons would be Ephraim and Manasseh. So Israel is not the Jews. This is not a synonymous. At best, you could say the Jews is one tribe. One tribe, or one, you could say it's one tribe, or you could say it's the descendants through, not Tamar, but the Canaanite woman. Okay, I hope I didn't lose you people now. This is really important. This kind of changes a lot of things once you understand it. So, why am I saying that Jesus is not the King of the Jews? Who is advantageous? Who does it? Who gains from Jesus being the King of the Jews? The Jews. Why? Because Jesus said that if they are in truth, if they're not in truth, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. If you stay in His word, in Jesus' word, Jesus' word, if you stay in His word, if the Jews stay in His word, they're His. If they don't, well, then they are children of the devil. And they're liars. And that's 8:44 in John. It's really important to understand this now. So now the Jews have to find a way to get themselves into the kingdom. Okay? Now, did this happen in the Old Testament? Oh, yeah. What did Judah do? See, Judah was pretty slick. Judah brought Tamar, a priestess' wife, to marry off the fornicated kids so he could pass them off as, the descendants. Now remember, Judah went after, who did Judah go after? He only went after Tamar because she dressed like a harlot. Think about that for today. Judah dressed like a harlot. Tamar dressed like a harlot to seduce Judah so that the line of God could be clear. That's why I never understood, why did they have that in the Bible about Judah and Tamar? It makes no sense. Now it makes all the sense in the world. And when did this happen? This whole thing happened after Judah had sold Joseph. Okay? Judah had sold Joseph, and after that, this whole business with the 3 sons and everything happened. So you could see how God is giving, like karma, you could say, or judgment. Okay. I don't want to lose you guys now. So let's go back here. So Jesus said that they are children of the devil. Jesus said that they are vipers. John the Baptist. John the Baptist said that they are vipers. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, they're lizard people. Lizard people. Okay? From the serpent. Because remember, John 8:44, and ye shall do the of your father the devil. Okay? He's a manslayer. Who's the first man slayed? Abel. Or you could say Jesus, the lamb slain before the foundation of the world. So now what happens? Jesus said all these things. Now Jesus is not saying slander. When Jesus says you're children of the devil, you know that they're children of the devil. When Jesus says, I have chosen you 12 and one is a devil, he's talking about Judas Iscariot. Remember, the word Judas comes from Judah, New Testament word from Greek, and then you go back to Judah. And which Judah? The Judah, not from Tamar, but from the Canaanite woman. Okay, so now, Judah tried to marry off a priestess wife, a daughter of a priestess, to his sons to cleanse them. So what did the Jews do? What did the Jews do in the New Testament? They were seeding the Bible by saying, King of the Jews. So now let's see where that pops up. And then we're going to see how powerful this is. This is really big. This is really tremendous. So the first place we find it is in Matthew 2. Let's see what it says. And thou, O Bethlehem, the land of Judah. Oh no, yeah, land of Judah. By no means leaders of Judah. Wait. Okay. And Jesus having been born, okay, this is Matthew 2:1. Jesus having been born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, lo, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, where is he who was born King of the Jews? Okay, so that's interesting, right? Why would it say here King of the Jews? All right, so maybe you might think, well, I'm wrong here because these Magi came, right? Okay, let's keep reading. For we saw his star in the east, and we came to bow to him. And Herod the king, having heard, was stirred, and Jerusalem with him, and having gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he was inquiring. So now Herod wants clarity here. What's going on? From where this Christ is born? Where's the anointed? And they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea. Okay, now this is a place now. For thus it hath been written through the prophet, and thou Bethlehem, the land of Judah, again, same time, land, thou art no means the least among the leaders of Judah, for out of thee, okay, leaders of Judah, for out of thee shall come one leading, who shall feed my people Israel. Okay? It's King of Israel. The my people is Israel, not Jews. Because Jews then would only be Judah. So the clarification is there. This is how awesome the Bible is, because it clarifies everything. So now, let's hunt around now. Where else we're going to find King of the Jews? Local search. Okay, so it's only in the New Testament. All right, so now we're going to go to Matthew 27:11. Okay, I'm using this other app because the other one was crashing all the time. Go to the passage. Okay. And Jesus stood before the governor in question, saying, art thou king of the Jews? Okay, so who's saying this now? Pilate is saying this to Jesus. This is right around the time before he was crucified. And Jesus said unto him, thou sayest. Thou sayest. That means Pilate is saying that. Who is Pilate? Pilate is from Rome, and we have today the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, the Roman Catholic Church. What does the Roman Catholic Church says today? That Jesus is King of the Jews, right? Okay. Now, Jesus didn't say, thou sayest, and he is, in his being accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer a thing. Accused of what? Being King of the Jews. Then saith Pilate to him, dost thou not hear how many things these witnesses against thee? And he did not answer him, nor gave one word, so that the governor did wonder greatly. Okay, let me keep going. Okay, now, they therefore having been gathered together, Pilate saith to them, whom will ye I shall release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he hath known, because of the envy, that he had delivered him up, and he is sitting on the tribunal. His wife saying, nothing to thee that to do to this righteous one, for many things I did suffer. And the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitudes that they might ask. Now remember, the enablers for them to ask for Barabbas that might destroy Jesus. And the governor answering said to them, which of the two shall I release to you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate saith unto them, what then I shall do with Jesus, who is called Christ? Christ is anointed. They all said, let be crucified. Now remember, Christ is also the truth, the light, the way to God. The way to God to be crucified. Who's crucifying? Who do we say is the devil? The devil, is a manslayer. Just keep that in mind. And the governor said, why? What evil did he? And they were crying out the more, saying, let be crucified. And Pilate, having seen that it profiteth nothing, but rather tumult is made, having taken water, did wash his hands before the multitude, saying, I'm innocent from the blood of this righteous one. You see, Pilate washed his hands in this. Pilate didn't do this. And all the people answering, his blood is upon us and children. Then he did release them, Barabbas, and Jesus, he delivered them up. He delivered up to that he may be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor, having taken Jesus to the praetorium, did gather him round the band, and they unclothed him. Okay, I want to get to the King of the Jews again. Now, one more thing. Where was Jesus crucified? And having come to a place called Golgotha, that is called the place of the skull, the head. Just remember that, the head. Now, let's go to the other places where it pops up. Oh, this is so much slower. Okay. Where are we now? 27, 29. Go to passage. And having plaited a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and his right hand, and having kneeled before him, they were mocking him. Now, they were mocking him. Now, these are people mocking him now. Hail the King of the Jews. And having spit on him, they took a reed and were smiting his head, that they mocked him. They took off from him his cloak and put on his own garments and led him away. And coming forth. Now remember, these are people mocking him. All right. First, Pilate asked, people are mocking him, saying, King of the Jews. Let's go to a few more places. Now we're going to go to Matthew 27:37. Go to the passage. And they put over his head his accusation. Look, they accused Jesus of what? This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Then crucified him are two robbers, one on the left hand and one on the right hand, one on the left. And those passing by were speaking evil of him, wagging their heads. Okay, great. All right, so we got that so far. Let's go to the next places. Remember, this is a big deal. Everybody's been teaching this for so many years. But if you look and you examine the verses, let's go to 15:2. Okay, Pilate questioned him. Now this is Pilate questioning Jesus. Art thou the King of the Jews? And he answered, said to them, Thou dost say it. So this is the second time where it's asked of Jesus if he is the King of the Jews. And the chief priests were accusing him of many things, but he answered nothing. And Pilate again questioned him, saying, Thou dost not answer anything. How many things they testify against thee? And Jesus did no more answer a thing. So Pilate wondered. All right, so this is two times now they're asking Jesus, Art thou King of the Jews? Now remember, the precedent that God lays out for us is, hear ye him. My beloved Son, hear ye him. So we have to hear what Jesus says. And Pilate answered them, saying, Will ye that I release to you the King of the Jews? For he knew that because of envy. Okay, so now Pilate knows what's going on. So you could say he's saying, should I let you have King of the Jews? The chief priests had delivered him up, and the chief priests did move the multitude. So you see now the chief priests are moving the multitude that they might rather release Barabbas to them. And Pilate answered again, said to them, What then ye I shall do with him who ye call King of the Jews? And they again cried out, Crucify him. And Pilate said to them, Why? What evil did he? And they cried out more vehemently, Crucify him. And Pilate, wishing to contend the multitude, released to them Barabbas and delivered up Jesus, having scourged him, that he might be crucified. All right. They began to salute him, Hail, King of the Jews. And they were smiting him on the head with a reed, spitting on him, having bent the knee. Now remember, they're calling him King of the Jews, and the chief priests want him to be crucified. All right, so you got to understand how the psychopath works. The psychopath has somebody else do the dirty work. That's how they usually do things. Okay, so we're Mark 15, let's say 20. Now we're going to go to the next couple of places. Local search. Oh, this is so slow. Jews. Okay, now we're going to get to the meat and potato. We really want to get to John. John is where we want to get to, because John gives us something different. And Pilate questioned him, saying, Thou art King of the Jews? And he, again, Jesus is now answering him, said, Thou dost say it. This is the third time that they're asking, that Pilate's asking Jesus, Are you King of the Jews? And Pilate said unto the chief priests and the multitudes, I find no fault in this man. There's nothing wrong with this man. There's no fault. That means he's true. That's a way of saying it, but we'll get to that later. More urgent saying, He doth stir up the people, teaching throughout the whole world of Judea, having begun from Galilee unto this place. And Pilate, having heard of Galilee, questioned this man, a Galilean, and having known that he is from the jurisdiction of Herod, so he gave him back to Herod. All right, so 3 times so far. Now, let's go to the next place. All right. Okay, now John, this is when it gets really interesting. Let's go to John. And you're going to see how these things having said, Jesus went forth with his and entered into the praetorium. Now this is John now. This is the book of John. Now, part of me says John is also for today, whereas the first 3 are for back then, now we're today. and called Jesus and said to him, Thou art King of the Jews? Jesus answered him, From thyself dost thou say this, or did others say it to thee about me? Jesus now is finding out where Pilate's position is. Now remember, Jesus already knows, but we need to have this in the writing. Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Thy nation and the chief priests did deliver thee up to me. What didst thou? Thy nation. Okay, nation. What nation? Judea. Okay? Jesus answered, My kingdom, here it comes, is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my officers had struggled that I might not be delivered up to Jews, but not delivered up to Jews. But now my kingdom is not from hence. Jesus' kingdom is not the Jews. He is not the king of the Jews. He said it. He didn't say that he was king of the Jews. He said, This is not my kingdom, is not from hence. So he's not the king of the Jews. I hope you got that. Pilate therefore said to him, Art thou then a king? All right, so not a king of the Jews now, so that's settled, right? Pilate knows that's settled. Now, this is also settled in the other three. So when Pilate was saying this to the people, Shall I release your king? Pilate already knew what was going on. He knew, because he knows that he was given up for envy. Here it comes. Jesus answered, Thou dost say it because a king I am. I for this have been born, and for this I have come to the world, that I may testify to the truth. What's the truth? That Jesus is also the King of Israel, not the Jews. Everyone who is of the truth. We know this from John 8, because Jesus says in John 8, there is no truth in them. Them. Who is he talking to? The Jews. And which Jews have the truth? The ones that stay in his word of truth. I hope this is making sense right now. Doth hear my voice. So who hears the voice? Doth Israel doth hear my voice. Pilate saith unto him, What is truth? He doesn't know what truth is. What's truth? That word is a Greek word, hidden alpha. And this having said again, went forth unto the Jews, and saith to them, I do not find fault in him. Ye and ye have your custom. I shall release to you the King of the Jews. Therefore they all cried out again, saying, Not this one, but Barabbas. And Barabbas was a robber. All right, so now we want to go to the next verse. Where's 19? Oh my goodness, I'm not used to using this one. Wild T. How do I get to the next verse? There we go. Okay, 19. This is where it gets really. We're going to get to the inscription, and this is the big deal. Then therefore did Pilate take Jesus and scourge him. To the soldiers he plaited a crown of thorns, did place on his head and purple garment, and he put round him, and he said, Hail, the King of the Jews. And they were giving him slaps. Now, by the way, when you, in another verse, the people that are slapping Jesus and spitting on him and saying King of the Jews, they are Jews. Hail the King of the Jews. And they were giving him slaps. Pilate therefore again went forth without, and saith to them, Lo, I bring to you without, that ye may know that I find no fault. This is the second time he says it. Jesus therefore came forth without, bearing the thorny crown and purple garment, and he saith to them, Lo, the man. When therefore the chief priests and the officers did see him, they cried out, saying, Crucify, crucify. Pilate saith to them, Take ye him, and crucify, for I find no fault in him. Jesus told them to crucify. The Jews answered, said, We have a law, that according to our law, that he might die, that he made himself the Son of God. When therefore Pilate heard this word, he was more afraid, and entered again into the praetorium, and he said to Jesus, Whence art thou? And Jesus gave him no answer. Pilate therefore said to him, To me dost thou not speak? Hast thou not known that I have authority to crucify thee, and I have authority to release thee? Jesus answered and said, Thou wouldst have no authority against me, if it were not given to thee from above. Because of this, he who is delivering me up to thee hath greater sin. Now, this is the Roman Catholic Church as well. Because when you're looking at Pilate, that's what he's going to be representing. because everything's analogous. From this time was Pilate seeking to release him, and the Jews were crying out, saying, if this one thou mayest release, thou art not a friend of Caesar. You see how he's going around the back of Pilate? Everyone making himself a king doth speak against Caesar. Pilate, therefore, having heard this word, brought Jesus without and sat down upon the tribunal to a place called the Pavement, and in Hebrew, Gabbatha, and it was preparation of the Passover, and it was the 6th hour, and he saith to the Jews, lo, your king. And they cried out, take away, crucify him. Pilate saith to them, your king shall I crucify. Now this is really important. The Jews were seeding this and saying, he is the king of the Jews, king of the Jews. Now watch what happens. The chief priests answered, we have no king except Caesar, by their own mouth. Jesus is not the king of the Jews. Caesar is the state that they manipulate unto this day. Then, therefore, he delivered him up to them that he may be crucified. And they took Jesus and led him away, and bearing his cross, he went forth to the place called of the skull, in the head, okay, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha. Now here comes another big one. This is probably one of the most important places where they crucified him, and 2 others on the side, and on that side Jesus in the midst. And Pilate also wrote. Who wrote the title? Pilate. Now remember, Pilate knows the story now. He knows what's going on, and put it on the cross. And it was written, Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews. This title, therefore, read many of the Jews, because the place was nigh to the city where the Jews was crucified, where Jesus was crucified, and it was having been written in Hebrew and Greek and Roman. Now here comes the chief priests. Now remember, the chief priests are playing everybody here. Of the Jews said, therefore, to Pilate, write not the King of the Jews, but that one said, I am the King of the Jews. Now, I hope you got this. The Jews want Jesus to say that he is their king, because if he's their king, he can't do the judgment on them. Okay? This is big. So Pilate answered and said, what I have written. Now we're going to get to one more thing. When Jesus was brought to King of Israel. Now watch this. Look at the difference. King Israel. Here it comes. Go. We don't have much time, so I'm going to make this as fast as I can. The Christ, the King of Israel. No, that's not the place. King of Israel, local church. Now what we're going to do is, when Jesus was coming to the New Testament 15. Yeah, this is Jesus coming now. Look at this. This is so important. This is like, oh my goodness, we don't have much time, but and there was a certain one ailing, Lazarus. Oh my goodness. Jesus, therefore, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus, who had died, he had raised him out of the dead, and they made for him a supper. Proud. Oh, geez, where did I miss that? Local search ranges, New Testament. Now, when Jesus was coming, 12:13, go. All right, 12:13. Took the branches of the palms and went forth to meet him. They were meeting Jesus now, and were crying, Hosanna, blessed he who is coming in the name of the Lord, the King of